So it's probably quite an exciting time. It's fast becoming a popular outdoor lawn game, but it's also becoming a popular sport, which actually has both a USA and a world championship to it. Hi, this is Anita from the Dusty Roads podcast about living your life as a global citizen. My family would go on vacation in northern Wisconsin during the summertime. We'd always bring with us a Swedish game, which is called Kubb. This was a game that we really loved and we really enjoyed playing. And as I think now about the weather is starting to become warmer and people are thinking about lawn games to play outside, I want to talk a little bit about Kubb and this game that is actually starting now to take America and other places by storm. Legend has it that the Vikings used to play a version of Kubb, and they played the game using real bones and human skulls, probably the bones and skulls of their enemies that had been captured and killed. Now, I have to say that this has never been substantiated, so I don't know if it's true or not, but I like to think that it probably is. That this is a legend that's kind of been floating around Scandinavia for years, but it's never been able to be confirmed. Though some people say that the Swedish Kubb game is over 1,000 years old. I don't know about you, but I could kind of see those, strong, fierce Viking men tossing human bones to tip over human skulls and having their competition. We do know that Kubb is an old Nordic game, and so it's easy to imagine on the wind-swept grassy plains of an island like Gotland, Sweden, in the Baltic Sea, our Viking forefathers played the Kubb game on a grassy part of the island. Many Swedes also called the Kubb game Viking chess, or the old log game. And the reason is because, many people in Sweden, of course, and especially in Gotland, during the winter time, they had wood burning stoves, years ago. And so they had a lot of wood around. And so people would just sort of take that wood and they would cut it up in order to make the game. And there they'd have a game in their backyard. I didn't realize this about Kubb, even though we played it, but still today, there is a world championship of Kubb, and there's even a U.S. championship of Kubb, which I'll talk about. At first, I want to talk about the Kubb game, and then we'll talk about some of these interesting championships that are going on with the game itself, which I had no idea that the game was this popular. I thought it was just this sort of strange Scandinavian game that our family sometimes played in the summertime. What makes it such a popular game is that almost anyone can play it. Both old and young are known to play Kubb. So virtually anyone of any age can play the game. Just 2 people can play Kubb, or you can have teams. And a good number of teams is usually no more than 6 people per team. Having 6 people on the team allows each person to at least have 1 throw. So, the Kubb game basically has a couple things. It has 1 king. It has 10 cubes, which are basically these, wooden blocks that are basically 5.9 inches, about 6 inches high, and about 3 inches square. 6 throwing sticks, which are also known to be batons, which are usually about 1.5 inches diameter and about 12 inches long. And then they have 4 corner sticks, which you'd mark out exactly where your corner is, because the playing field of the Kubb is about 8 meters by 5 meters, which would be translated to about 16.4 feet to 26.25 feet. So, actually the Kubb you're able to play on many different surfaces. There's people I've even seen play it in the snow. There's people who play it on the sand. People play it in mud. But mostly it is played on grass, because grass is usually the easiest way to be able to play Kubb. The basic game of Kubb is to knock over the king, but you can only knock over the king when you have knocked over the cubes, or the sticks your opponent has with a baton. If you happen to knock down the king accidentally, you have lost the game. So the king's in the center of this court, which kind of is shaped a bit like a tennis court. And then on this line, each person has their different cubes all lined up. And there'd be 5 cubes lined up on each side. The idea is you don't want your opponent to knock down your Kubbs, but at the same time, you don't want to misthrow and knock down the king. And so, to throw the bantons, you need to throw them underarm and stay within the throwing area. Each team, to start the game, will toss a banton towards the king, and the one that gets the closest, that would be the one that will start. The object of the game is to knock down the Kubb of the opposing team. When the Kubb's knocked down, the Kubb is tossed in the opposing team's field, and then it's put upright. So before that team can knock down any of your Kubbs that are on the baseline, they must first knock down those. So if you think about the strategy of the game, that means it takes a lot of skill, because essentially you need to be able to knock down 11 Kubb with only 6 bantons. So you need to be able to really be able to find a way to knock down those Kubbs, kind of a bit like a bowling ball, except for a bowling ball, you've got a stick and you have to be able to knock them down. The one who could knock down all of their opponent's Kubbs can then knock down the king and will win the game. This is what makes it such a great game to be able to be played, because, it's really a game that requires strategy and requires skill. But it's also a game that I didn't realize how popular the game has become. And I promise you I'd go back to this now, where I found out that there is in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, has declared itself to be the Kubb capital of America. And there in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, they have the U.S. Championship for Kubb, where there's teams that are going there to play for a U.S. Championship. And actually, they said, too, that they even have Kubb being played in the schools. So that's why they've kind of declared themselves the Kubb capital of America. And it seems to be for their championships, they've got quite a few different teams showing up from all over the United States. There's different clubs being sprung up all over the United States. They're playing tournaments with each other. So this is really becoming a very popular type of game. And it's actually a game that I predict will continue to become more and more popular, because it is really a fun and very addictive game to play. There's also the World Championship of Kubbs, and that takes place in the island of Gotland, Sweden. And they were saying that one year they had 165 teams from 8 countries participating. So, and each team, I think, had to have a minimum of at least 3 people. So that was quite a few people that were there attending the World Championship of Kubb. And what they would do would be over a weekend, and you play each other until the 2 final teams play each other down for the championship. So it's probably quite an exciting time. It's fast becoming a popular outdoor lawn game, but it's also becoming a popular sport, which actually has both a USA and a World Championship to it. If you want to buy a Kubb set, I've actually on my blog, which I'll put a link to below for this, found there's one set that I like that's been made in Italy. You can look at that and see if it's something you might enjoy buying. There's lots of other sets online. There's lots of different people making them. The sets which are made for the championships are usually made out of pine wood. So, that's important. If you're getting a set, maybe try to get one that's made out of pine wood. Sometimes people will actually paint their Kubb sets. They may decorate them a bit. You can find some things online about how to paint your set and how to make it become your own unique Kubb set. We hope you've enjoyed our podcast. We thank you so much for listening. If you have time, we'd love to have you subscribe to the Dusty Road Podcast and become part of our community. Thank you so much for listening.